Lately, a few doctor influencers have been promoting a somewhat expensive protein supplement. Protein composed of all of the individual amino acids that are required for complete protein in an easy to digest format. That is, an essential amino acid supplement to boost your protein intake. Because you can never have too much protein.
Again?
Again.
Art thou bored?
Yeah.
Step into a Slim Jim!
I get a ton of comments on the channel and I try to respond to most of them. Unless they're just time wasting or promote nonsense ideas, then I just ban them. Something that constantly comes up is related to the video, and that's why supplement at all. Obviously, we should be able to get all of the nutrients we need just from eating food from nature, right? Well, nature isn't God and it doesn't really care about us at all. In fact, it may even dislike us, especially as we age. We've either reproduced already and are no longer needed, or we're probably just not going to. So, out with the old and in with the new. That's what Darwin says anyway. That's not how I feel though. I want to live to be older than I am now. I'm pretty sure almost everyone feels the same, or they wouldn't bother to be here in the first place. The nutrients in plants are what most people think of as micronutrients, which is a word that I really hate. But this is just a few of the dozens of nutrients our body can use, from choline and phosphatidylserine to carnosine and carnitine, not to mention glycine and taurine, which are available in meat but only in tiny amounts in the cuts that we currently eat. Yes, you can make oxtail soup and eat beef hearts and drink tons of bone broth daily and have calf liver weekly in brain sauce, but let's be honest, you either don't do it or you don't do it enough. I'm not doing it as much as I should either, and almost nobody is. You also have the issue that meat is aged for about 30 days before it even gets to the market, and that leads to a lot of nutrition loss, and then they keep it on the shelves for about 2 months before they throw it out. So you don't get as much vitamin A or B vitamins as you may think this way. Cooking also affects these nutrients, but actually it's the aging that's the worst factor in this respect. It's even worse for plants because all of the values come from tests in the 30s and earlier, and those tests were done on ripe fruit that was organic and heirloom varieties that were much different than what we have today. Now it is varieties designed to be much larger, much sweeter, and to have a lot more water content. And the main thing that they're bred for is to last on the shelves longer, and this also leads to vitamin loss. They also have much less flavor because by and large they just don't have the same actual nutrient content to begin with. I remember I used to get really flavorful apples, for example, when I was a kid, but that just doesn't happen anymore, except with those super expensive Honeycrisp apples that actually don't have that much flavor. They're just really sweet. They're just not the same fruit as even 100 years ago or even when I was a kid. They are both bred to last on the shelf longer and coated in wax that preserves them. This lets them sit around longer and lose vitamins, and the coating itself is also toxic. This is true even for so-called organic produce, thanks to the wonderful Mr. Bill Gates.
Well, he's dead, so, in general, you always have to be careful.
Other supplements like alpha-ketoglutarate and creatine are made in the body, but you can make less of them as you age, and you don't necessarily make enough. Sure, this is natural to lose these as we age, but it's also natural to get old and die, since most people do not want to get old and die, and they want to keep their stem cells healthy and live longer and look as good as possible while they are here, taking a supplement for things like alpha-ketoglutarate is a very good idea, and that means you're going to have many more years to do the things that you love.
Marge, spending time with you is more important to me than all the pie-eating contests in the world.
I thought it was arm wrestling.
I was in a pie-eating contest on the way home. Now let's go to bed.
So what's the purpose of taking essential amino acids, and what are they? As you likely know, some proteins cannot be made in the body itself and can only be obtained through the diet. This includes glycine, methionine, and leucine. These are the 3 amino acids people often have trouble obtaining enough of in their diet. A so-called complete protein has all these amino acids in the proportions they're found in foods considered to have high quality protein. That is the same as what we find in animal-based foods. Or at least this is what they're compared to. An egg has the highest protein value because of all the foods it will actually make an animal grow more when they eat that. So this is what they use as a comparison. Generally, animal products have very high protein value, while plant proteins have a very low value. Some have said you can combine plant proteins to balance them out better, but in reality, it is the same 3 amino acids that are lacking in all plant proteins to some degree. And I'd note also that when you talk about cows and sheep and so on, they actually make their own amino acids in their stomach through bacteria, and they're really eating the bacteria, they're not really eating the grass. The 3 that are missing in plant proteins are leucine, methionine, and glycine. Soy protein is the most complete plant protein, but really it's not very good. It's just that most of them are much, much worse. As we age, our ability to properly digest food slowly dwindles, and so does our appetite, especially when it comes to tough, chewy foods like some steaks, especially if they're well done. And make sure if you have food like this to chew it up really well before you swallow. This is going to help you get all of the protein out of there and actually digest it. This is also a problem for ground or shredded meat. Even though we cut it up, it can still be tough due to sitting around for so long. And it can also be hard to digest or have less nutrition because it's been cooked too much. More leucine is also needed as we age to trigger muscle protein synthesis. So for the elderly, this can be a pretty big issue. For this reason, you often actually need more protein with age, but doctors will tell you more and more as you age to avoid meat, especially red meat. You also probably have trouble eating even what you did when you were younger, let alone very large amounts, because your digestion is unlikely to be as good. And it doesn't matter how much protein you eat if you don't actually digest it. That's where essential amino acid supplements come in. This is basically individual amino acids in what's presumed to be the right proportions that are pre-digested for easy absorption. So you can cram down more protein without having to actually change your diet.
Dad, no! It's gonna kill you!
I've had a good run.
It sounds like a great plan, doesn't it? Unfortunately, there are some issues. While you can easily absorb all these amino acids, they all absorb at different rates. So what tends to happen is that protein synthesis triggers, but some of the amino acids are either not yet absorbed or are already gone. Unfortunately, some of the essential amino acids tend to get turned into glucose through gluconeogenesis if they're absorbed individually. So all of the work done to get amino acids in just the right proportions is totally foiled. On top of that, it is pretty expensive, and the total amount of protein most of these supplements provide is really not going to do anything. You really want at least 30 grams of protein to properly stimulate protein synthesis. If you take this directly after a meal, it will help this process along a bit, but it is a very expensive way just to get a little bit of extra protein. There's also a big assumption that the amino acid levels seen in egg are the ideal ratios. In reality, there's a lot of protein not just in muscles but in bone and skin, especially glycine. Until recently, we would have eaten all of this along with the muscle meat and organs of the animals.
Why are we deficient in glycine? Well, we all know that we have to eat whole grains in order to get the B vitamins we need. We discovered that 100 years ago. Whole grains, fine, but what about the whole pig, the whole chicken, and the whole fish, and the whole cow? Right, we cut off the muscle meats and we throw the bones away. But everybody knows grandma's chicken soup is so good for you. Why? Because you're boiling the collagen out of the bones. That's the protein, and that's where most of the glycine is. Well, it turns out that glycine is also an amino acid that, as the free amino acid, is needed in high concentration all the time in your body to keep those cells that do the inflammation from being hyperactive.
Protein is also the least of the benefits of animal products. Many other nutrients are low in plant-based foods such as zinc, and dozens of them just don't exist in the animal kingdom at all. Phosphatidylcholine, phosphatidylserine, B12, true vitamin A, EPA and DHA, orotic acid, and dozens more simply don't exist outside of animal products. Many more exist in the wrong proportions, like minerals, which lead to deficiency over time. Glucose can also block mineral absorption and vitamin C absorption. There's also many anti-nutrients in plants, so you can wind up not only missing out on them, but actually losing some of them when you're on a high-carb diet. This leads to physical problems like increased rate of aging due to more oxidative stress, and a wide variety of behavior problems too.
Wow!
Mort. It's a small part of this girl's breakfast.
I mentioned earlier that many people seem to almost demand that we should get all of our nutrition from food, especially some people in the carnivore community. They're largely right, and that is the best way to get plenty of good protein along with other nutrients your body needs. So try to get things the natural way first.
This barbecue will be hard, thankless work, but I'm sure you're up to it, Marge.
The problem is that as we age, we may not be able to take quite enough in or to digest it properly. So what's the solution? How about protein powders? Protein powders are one option, but I don't trust them all that much. Reputable health supplement companies are pretty good about quality control, but sports fitness products and food items are notoriously unreliable, and they're usually globally sourced. They essentially never have any testing whatsoever. Arsenic and glyphosate is very common in plant-based foods and in their derivatives today due to runoff and constant spraying. So aside from some ridiculously overpriced grass-fed organic whey protein options, who can even say what's in that powder? Often it's spiked with junk amino acids like glutamine that almost everyone today gets plenty of already and isn't really useful, simply because it's cheaper. It could also be full of microplastics and who knows what other kinds of contaminants. And remember, you have to take quite a bit of this stuff to get any noticeable effect, even if it is genuine. People complain about my regimen of supplement powders, but adding it all up, it's only about 20 grams total. Guess how much protein powder you'd need to get a useful effect? Well, about 20 grams, and 30 grams is going to work a lot better. Some people have asked if they should adjust the amounts in the description based on weight. My answer is no. Unlike medications, we don't care about blood concentrations in nutrition very much. Organs, including the brain, are somewhat similar in size, even between people who are very small and people who are very large. So don't skimp out on nutrition. Yes, you can take in less if you just can't manage that much but you could get benefits from much higher levels for a lot of these nutrients, especially from glycine, which you can go very high on. Just don't overdose on actual vitamins or take too much betaine anhydrous, or you could have some issues. So what's the answer? It's leucine. People today generally don't have many deficiencies in amino acids, though I will talk about a couple other amino acids people could use more of in the next section. The real problem is they're becoming anabolic resistant with age, and it is simultaneously harder to stimulate protein synthesis and harder to get in and actually digest enough protein. Thankfully, it's actually leucine that stimulates muscle protein synthesis, not total protein. Leucine alone is what initially triggers it, and taking it with a meal can dramatically boost this effect. In reality, essential amino acid supplements are going to have an effect only in proportion to the amount of leucine that's in them. And since leucine is only a small part of that blend, you'll get about 15 to 20 times more effect by simply taking leucine instead. It also has many other benefits like protecting your muscle mass by turning into HMB, which is also taken as a supplement, and much more. So no matter how old you are, leucine will help you improve yourself physically.
Ladies and gentlemen, behold your new god, Mr. Burns.
Even if you do eat plenty of animal protein and don't have any issues with frailty, you should still consider glycine and cysteine supplements. They're both required to make glutathione within the body, as well as hundreds of other important molecules. If you don't consume large amounts of broth like people did less than a century ago, you're going to get much less than you need to be optimally healthy. Cysteine is the molecule that your body splits out from methionine, which is very lacking in plant-based foods. Even if you do get plenty of meat in your diet, splitting it up makes the nasty byproduct homocysteine. If you're deficient in cysteine or glycine, this dangerous chemical rises and rises over time because it's also glutathione that takes care of this byproduct. That means supplementing cysteine will not only clean this up, but it will keep you from having to do this in the first place, because your body simply doesn't need to split up methionine to make cysteine anymore. So don't fool yourself into thinking that just because you eat hamburger, you're getting optimal nutrition. Tongue, tail, broth, cheek, heart, and liver are all things we used to eat much more of, and that's where many important nutrients reside. If you don't eat much meat, then these nutrients are even more critical. For example, cysteine is also what the body uses to make taurine. Lack of cysteine and glycine is also probably why people on standard American diet, which is basically everywhere now, have only half or less glutathione than people on a keto diet. No doubt vegans will be even lower in their levels, and this is just one of the many problems that are going to occur when you have little or no animal products in the human diet.
Now, I'm not a baby expert, but I'm pretty sure they're not supposed to shrink. Babies need fat, proteins, calories. Less important, sprouts and hemp.
Whether you should take a supplement is largely a cost versus benefits analysis, and EAAs fail on this front. There's many reasons they fail to deliver the desired result of easy to digest high quality protein. For example, most amino acids are very common in the diet today, and they trigger incomplete protein synthesis due to different absorption rates, and to put it simply, there's just a lot better, more effective options out there that are also cheaper. For the frail, a leucine supplement taken with meals is a no-brainer, and everyone should consider supplementing glycine and cysteine if they want optimal health. And people who work out with weights might want to take a little extra leucine with their post-workout meals to make your workout a little more effective. And in fact, the supplements in the description are all supplements that I believe everyone would benefit from. And they're virtually always worth taking for the average person. Leucine has an awful taste and is a very fine powder that makes it very hard to swallow. If you mix it with other powders and put it in your mouth while chewing food, this helps a lot. Pouring some cream or half and half on your tongue and letting it sit in your mouth a while before swallowing also helps a great deal, and this works for almost anything. I sometimes take leucine after a workout, and I'll take 5 to 10 grams with my post-workout meal. But I don't do it much anymore because it's really not all that necessary for me. For people worried about becoming underweight or frail, then it's a good idea to take it daily, but you don't need such high doses. Just follow whatever's on the packaging and take it with your largest meal of the day or with your post-workout meal. I have affiliate links in the description for leucine, glycine, cysteine, and a bunch of other supplements that I take daily. I like bulksupplements.com because they get third-party tested a lot by their competitors. Otherwise, there's no way to know what's really in it. Even a certificate of authenticity really doesn't mean all that much because it's the company that pays for the testing and it chooses what sample to send for testing, and they could have sent in 1,000 samples and only chosen to publish the one that passed. It's also mainly bulk powders, and that's the best way to take supplements. Otherwise, they're full of endless fillers you don't want, and they could be contaminated with who knows what, such as rice powder, which is full of arsenic. You can also order them from Amazon, but I don't recommend ever using them for anything. They store everything in a hot warehouse for months on end, which is especially bad for supplements. They're also riddled with scammers, and Amazon does nothing to stop them. So you might think you're buying from Amazon or bulk supplements, but you're getting it from some scammers that are going to send you a fake. This has happened to me a couple times with computer stuff while I was using Scamazon, and they deleted all my reviews about it, and they still have these scammers on their site. They also love to restock returns, meaning it could have been switched out by a scammer who then returned a fake, or it could have been sitting in a hot delivery van for weeks and weeks on end, and then they're going to ship it out to you and do the same thing. I've never had a single issue with bulksupplements.com, even though I've done many orders there. The few bad reviews I've seen were all from Amazon, and I would bet it was their distribution system that was the problem. Also, I don't get a commission if you go through Amazon. I did get a deposit from the affiliate program finally last week, so hopefully they're actually going to send some commissions out for a change, which for a while they weren't. It was only $27, so I'm not sure how honest the accounting is after they switched over to the new tracking site. But regardless, the real reason I bring these supplements to people's attention is that I believe they are very helpful, and I have become healthier taking them over time. Not as much of an effect as doing 72 plus hour fasts has had, but then again, you just pay a few pennies per serving this way, which is a lot easier than fasting, especially when you first start. Oh, and also there's a sale on this weekend. It should be on already by now, and that's the big sale of the year that bulksupplements.com has, and you get 20% off. So this is a good time to stock up because they do have some other sales once in a while, but they're usually not nearly as good. I guess that's it for this week, but I also want to say happy Thanksgiving to everyone and happy holidays for the rest of the season too. And thank you to all of the people who watch every video and give it a like. Otherwise, no one else is ever going to see any of these videos. And most especially, of course, all the people who financially support the channel, which has been a real lifesaver, and it really amazes me how generous people are. If you want to support the channel, you can join the channel, or you can send Bitcoin, or you can use the Ko-fi website link below to send a larger donation, Or you can simply PayPal me at thehumanchannel@protonmail.com. Or you can just eat your Thanksgiving feast in peace and just not worry about it. Either way, I really appreciate each and every one of you, and I hope you have the happiest holiday season of your life that's full of peace, love, and miraculous healing for you and your whole family.
It's a Festivus miracle!
Let's begin.